with you is Harry. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm a behavioral financial advisor. I work in Laguna Hills, California. We help our clients enhance their quality of life through lifestyle planning. I'll get that into a bit. But right now, I'm just going to get started with a little bit of information about why you might want to learn what I have to share. And my goal is to help you look at things a little differently. Perhaps your perception not only of yourself might change from this little meeting we have, but also your perception of the industry and yourself within it. So if we can accomplish that, that would be a real great accomplishment. And I'll be asking for a show of hands after we speak about how many may have felt that way after the information we present. The question we come up with at the firm through the research we've done is, what are investors looking for today? Now, there's a lot of things happening, as you've seen with some of the meetings we've just had. Innovation, of course, technology, the pandemic, everything is changing around us. So what are investors looking for? I think what might help is to look at some of the data. And after the data, we're going to talk a little bit more from a heartfelt perspective about you, how you fit into business, where your mind is at, and where your heart is at. I noticed when the doctor spoke the other day about the heart, I really enjoyed that. I think it was yesterday. I loved it. But when we talk about our heart, what does that really mean? And why is that important to you as an advisor? How can you secure a better and stronger relationship with your clients and your family and your circumstance on this earth through understanding more about what heartfelt understanding is, soul-felt? Let's look at some of the data. So we've noticed in this past year and a half, the new investors are primarily being driven to the market because of COVID. There has been such a high influx of new investors to the market, and that their ages are younger. So it used to be at 48 years old, now it's 35. And there's a lot of information that's going to come to us now about that in this certain time together, but also in the future. Around 1/8 of the investors that are in the marketplace just started, 15% just started within the past year and a half. They're new investors, they're younger. And more than 50% of them are investing because of COVID, meaning they've realized, whoa, I've got to put some savings aside for an emergency. Suppose I lose my job, suppose I lose my way of earning a living and so on. So that's really important for us to know in the context of what I'm going to be speaking about, which is more about soul and meaning. Since January of this past year, we have a record amount of trades going on per day, over 8 million trades per day, which is a record over last year's record, which was 6 million trades per day, made through only 6 of the top wirehouses, or the firms that provide online services. So the reason why I bring that up is that it's really become a compelling concern for us as investment folks, providers, in that since COVID, once again, pre-2019, most investors used an advisor. Most investors went through an advisor or broker for exchange of information. And now, if we look since 2019, the lower two brackets there, more and more people are using either a computer, notebook, access to the internet for their information, and or using their mobile phone to access trades and make trades. Why is that significant to us? Well, little by little, it's becoming less relevant to have an advisor. And I'm going to argue today that if you look into the kind of investment management and philosophy that I have, perhaps you'll have a stickier clientele, but also you'll attract more people that you may not be attracting today that might need your help. I'll go into that a little bit more. Even though people are trading online, there's a little quote I like that investments online and using online services in general, they seem to connect us, but they also disconnect us at the same time from a human relations perspective. Humanity is kind of left out of the picture when we start dealing with people online or with investments online. And the anxiety levels of people have been going up and up and up and up and up. In fact, this past year, those surveyed by the U.S. Census Bureau, over 41% cumulatively between depression and anxiety, 41% of those suffered from depression and anxiety, and that's pretty significant. Why do I bring that up? Because once again, I think it's a disconnect and the usage of, it's not necessarily a cause, but the disconnect and usage of social media and online trading and so forth that doesn't create a very secure, in my opinion, human-based connectedness. So why is that important to us, and how does that have to do with our way of making a living? I think it has everything to do with it, in that if only these people knew that we're trading now online, if they only knew that that is the reason why the market is going up so much as it is. It's one of the primary drivers of the force of the momentum in the market. If only they understood that it's the experience that they need and the understanding that it's emotional behavior that creates the market now, that would save them in the long run. So we need to talk about that a little bit. So as advisors, we have a couple questions that come up. What should we do in the face of this technology? That's important to know. And then how do we adapt to the priorities that are shifting now because of COVID? I'll make an argument that priorities are shifting in our favor. We'll talk about that in a little bit. We're going to go back to the beginning of how the stock market began, just to give you an idea. This is trivia, but not really. It pertains exactly to what I'm talking about here. The stock market, the first offering was done, recorded offering was done in Basile, France. It was a small water mill in the 1200s. And the people in the community got together and said, whoa, if we invest our money together, we can have a water mill, we can have some water. Pretty important. So the purpose behind that was to get water for the folks that were investing in. So it was purposeful investing. Then in about the 1600s, 1602 to be exact, there was a nice offering made and an exchange format for a Dutch West Indies company that was exploring all around the world for resources. Of course, that was quite a while ago, 400 years ago. But you could go through there and invest in expeditions all over the world for, mostly spices, believe it or not. But there was gold exploration and so on. Since that time, the offerings that were made then were made usually by a posting. It would be in a newspaper or posters around the towns, and salespeople got involved. But since then, for about 400 years, we have developed a sales role. I say we, most of you, just to show of hands, how many of you have done stock trading or worked as a stockbroker or a mutual fund salesperson? A number of you. So myself, I started 32 years ago on Wall Street and Gold Street, trading on the institutional side. And then I started trading, making calls every day, an average of 200 dials a day, made a certain amount of contacts. That's how I got started in the business. Like most of Wall Street, it was just like it, crazy. So the sales role has changed, however, as you all know, and I think it's great. We've taken on a lot more responsibility than just selling securities, because it's got a lot more complex, and we've integrated what we do into folks' lifestyles. I'm going to make a really, really strong case about this sales role, though. We've gone from selling stocks and bonds, if you look around the circle, to some cursory financial planning. When I started in the industry, we did some really, at the time, high-end financial planning with American Express. It was crazy. I mean, the thing would be like this thick. I mean, $10,000 if you had over $1 million in net worth, investable net worth. Then it went on into services, aggregation, comprehensive planning, wealth management, a term that's used a lot now. And I'm going to make a case for, and we're going to start marketing more and more and more with this intention, that we are becoming lifestyle managers. And why that's important is that lifestyle really determines someone's quality of life, which then leads to how happy they are, and how joyful they are, and their family. And it extends down. If you have that kind of relationship with your client, you're going to be much, much more valuable. In fact, the role for you is changing without you may not be aware of it. You may not be conscious of this role changing. But if we go from the sales role to the planner role, which most of us done, we're also taking on the role of facilitator. Facilitator is something that makes things easier for someone. I'm going to facilitate this or that. When we were in sales role, we were selling product. We were in planner role. We were selling services. We still do that. That's really important. You can't exclude that. But in the facilitator role, we're selling still, but we're providing purpose. And this is where we're getting a little bit deeper about why maybe this change that we're going through now, which is inevitable, the only constant in life is change. The only certainty in life is uncertainty. It's kind of a paradox, but why we're most important now than we ever were. And yet we're starting to fade by the use of technology and how we can embrace all that going forward. So number one, we have to understand human nature. And by the way, the reason why technology is so popular, I would argue, is because people love to do things that are easy and convenient. I hope you agree. So heuristics and shortcuts and ease of use, technology makes it super easy to trade. Little does anyone realize that that's creating momentum a market that's going up and up and up since the recession, that most of the folks that are dabbling in that space, or a lot of them at least, especially the younger ones, aren't really familiar with or haven't experienced yet, once again, what may happen going forward if they're not aware of it. And another challenge that we face, besides understanding human nature and the fact that people like shortcuts, is that there's been a huge shift, once again, in the priorities of most investors. So how does behavioral finance fit in? This is about behavioral finance. Behavioral finance was, gosh, it's been around now for about a decade or so. It deals with traditional financial planning, meaning we don't exclude the importance of traditional base financial planning, psychology, and neuroscience. Let's discuss traditional financial planning first and foremost. Traditional financial planning is important for covering, in my opinion, the most important parts of living. Food, shelter, making sure I can retire on time, support my family, even if I pass away prematurely, my kids going to college, you know the list. So we don't want to skip this or mutually exclude this in the concept of talking about psychology. This is super important, and a lot of us don't have this. This is a quantitative exercise, meaning it's betas, alphas, and performance numbers and metrics and so forth. It's very important. Hey, can you pay your monthly expenses based on your current expenditures now, extend that out for 25 years with inflation, can you pay your expenses in the future? It's nice and it works. You need to understand risk tolerance, and there's a certain aspect of psychology and understanding risk tolerance. A lot of the questionnaires today incorporate questions that are psychologically based, investments, of course, and budget planning. Psychology, how does this incorporate? Well, the whole study of mixing investments and economies with, and finance with psychology is Dr. Kahneman. He's an emeritus professor now at Princeton University. I've had the occasion of meeting some of his students, but I've never met him in person. We call him the founding father of what we call behavioral financial planning. He also has studied and gotten the Nobel Prize for behavioral economics, and that's related to what I'm going to be talking about in more detail. And he developed what was called System 1 versus System 2 thinking, and System 1 versus System 2 behavior, which follows the thinking, sometimes referred to as short thinking and long thinking. Just for real quick, easy to remember concept here. System 1 thinking is from your chin up, right around your nose area here, behind your head here, and below. System 1 thinking makes up 95 to 98% of how we operate. What we think about, what we do, meaning our behaviors, and the results from it, is rather automatic, quick, now, fight or flight, emotional. People say, no, not me. Maybe you're an anomaly. 5% or so, or less, is what's called System 2 thinking, rational thinking, frontal cortex, from about here up. Rational thinking, this area of the brain has only developed in the past 10,000 years or so, and it's really crucial to direct your autonomic nervous system. We're going to go into some more detail because I didn't discuss yet the neuroscience behind it. If you can just take a little bit from this chart is super, super powerful in relaying to you how we operate, how we behave. And on the left side, we have negative emotions. On the right side, we have positive emotions, high energy, low energy. This chart outlines how most of us function from day to day and how we make decisions. A little trivia for you. In a given day, we exercise about 35,000 decisions one day, an average adult. Well, how do these decisions impact our lives? They do, because life is a continuum and everything is changing. And the decisions you make today will certainly impact the outcome for tomorrow. As professionals, we are in charge of helping clients not be emotional in their decision making. Yet, if we look, let's look first at the high energy, positive that way. So the upper right-hand quadrant of this XY axis. If we look at how excited and exuberant and overconfident and overcomfortable people are now with their stocks and with their trading accounts, I'm not sure if you've read recently, you can have a hamster in a wheel doing as well as any investor today. That's how well the market's going up on its own. So is the result that people are getting today attributed to skill? Or is it attributed to luck? A little bit of both. The younger investors today are super exuberant, and that's wonderful. Is that a really great time to make smart decisions, especially long-term decisions for our financial planning future? The answer is unequivocally no. It's like going food shopping when you're hungry. You don't do that necessarily when you're starving. Let's go back over to the upper left. People suffering from fear, anxiety, maybe even violence. It's high energy, low in terms of negative emotion. It's that way. High energy, negative emotion. Is that a good time to make a good decision, a life decision? Unequivocally not. I won't spend too long about this, except that the rational center of the brain is not utilized when we're in any of these quadrants at all. In fact, the more the extreme, the less our rational center is used. This right, the upper part of the brain right here. And the reason why is physiologically and neurologically, we're set up to completely bypass our frontal cortex when we have a high stimulus of any sort. Maybe a good stimulus, maybe a bad stimulus. I just use the two upper ones. So where is the best, most optimum place to make a rational decision? Slightly to the right, slightly positive, in the contentment, kind of complacent area. Not in the middle. The middle of the crosshair there is apathy, right here. It's kind of brain dead right there. You want to be up here when you make a rational decision. Just a show of hands, how many of you believe in your heart that when you make a decision, it's in the contentment state of your life? You're really content when you make that decision. No one? Come on. Candidly, not very many of us are trained to go there. It's a very difficult process. Some of us understand meditation, understand how to relax. I play music to relax. I hope some of you understand the benefits of that, have your own thing you do to get to that state of mind. It's called alpha. Alpha is a real clear place to be, to make good decisions, smart decisions for yourself. So how does behavioral finance fit in? It fits in because right now, you don't realize it, but you're already a behavioral financial counselor if you're not already involved in it. You're helping clients make rational, sound decisions, I hope you are, for long term, for their family. And you have a quantitative approach, but this talks more about the qualitative side of life. In my opinion, you can't get to lifestyle management talking about things that are really important deep inside someone's heart, their soul. How many people, by the way, have even heard the word soul in this meeting yet? Have you heard the word soul at all? I find it really ironic because it's really the soul that determines someone's fate and their decisions, and it really makes all the difference. People say, well, the why, we got to talk about the why now. What are you talking about? Everybody talking about the why. There's no real meat and potatoes to the why anymore. What we're really talking about is the soul, deep inside someone's heart, where their true electromagnetic potential is, where their true heartfelt feelings lie. It's the reason why we're on the earth. You don't realize it probably, but you are definitely a fulcrum in someone's life when it comes to their soul. Why? People place so much emphasis on their money. It is a means to an end. They've been conditioned to believe that without any money, they can't do this, they can't do that. And believe it or not, a person is not able to act in a very good, competent state in this red area here when it comes to money. For some reason, money excites them in such a way that they either get totally overexcited about it or really, really anxious about it. Some sort of emotional, large, very high emotional energy comes out when we start talking about money. It's everyone. And it's impossible for people to think really, really clearly unless they're trained. And by the way, unless they're out of it. They're not dealing with their own money. And by the way, that's you, that's us. We're dealing with people from a distance, professional distance, and although we get in the trenches with them, we can be objective and rational with regards to making decisions. I hope you understand how that goes. But regarding lifestyle, gosh, there's so many questions that come up. And this is going to be something that I'm probably going to be touching upon some emotional centers in yourself. This is all stemming from the basics all the way up to why we're here on this earth. And that's really kind of correlated to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Just to show of hands, how many understand or have seen this chart before? Most of you taking psychology classes. Candidly, Maslow, he was brilliant in this sense. He didn't realize himself as a psychologist and an academic in the field of psychology. He needed to go and study with the Blackfoot Indians for a while to understand the basics of human nature. And he found out, wait a second, just the basic psychological needs lie along here at the base. This is where we start. My pointer working right there. And then we start to worry about safety and security. We deal with this all day long with financial planning. Yeah, we want our families to be safe, secure, we have enough money to live and be comfortable. That's great. But what I mentioned in the title of this presentation is transcending that. That's traditional and it's awesome. But if we want to build more meaningful and deeper relationships with our clients in the face of this technological age, which is disconnecting people from what's most important, which is their soul, we need to start going upwards of this scale here a little bit and start talking about self-esteem, meaning in life, what's most important to you first, you as a human being, so that you can relate and have something to show and provide to your clients about, hey, look, this is what I'm doing. This is what's most important to me. And this is how I've done it. Not necessarily like I'm saying it now, but in demonstrating it in terms of some sort of referent power, some sort of energy, enthusiasm, inspiration, however you do it. To reach the highest levels, which, by the way, most of our clients are really seeking high potentials of living. They've sacrificed, skimped, and saved, and done everything they could to get there. They've earned it. But yet they don't realize it. In fact, they've got to go through a transition of saving and saving and saving and saving, all of a sudden to start to enjoy their money and realize and live their dreams. And it's, for us, a very difficult transition to help them get through. And many of them die before they ever get to spend the money. So let me share with you a little bit more about Maslow and what's happened and what's evolved. Dealing with values, I think the word's overused, just like the whole idea of, thinking about why. Values are nice, but people confuse the word. They think about these kind of values. I hired a consultant about 3 years ago. I was in kind of a midlife soul-searching crisis myself. I needed to improve how I did my business. I wanted to snap out of bed in the morning and get back to work and really get on with it. I said, look, I want to hire this fellow. He had a great reputation from New York City. He shadowed me for about 10 days, and he watched everything. He listened to my phone calls. He watched how I dealt with my staff. He dealt with the whole entire firm for 10 days, charged me $20,000. It was the best $20,000 I've ever invested, ever. Because at the end, he kept seeing this. He said, Nick, you're always doing this and this. This and this. And I noticed something. If you're going to be looking to rebrand and create more meaning in your life, my life, and you want to have a better balance in your life, it seems like you might want to tie this and this together, because it really is important to you, to me. What I noticed is I was expressing my frustration about how this industry, after 32 years being in it, full swing, full time, how it wasn't really meeting my needs, and it wasn't certainly meeting my clients' needs as deeply and as meaningfully as I wanted to. And I knew that the investment process was being commoditized. Now, investment planning, financial planning is being commoditized with all due respect. And you have some really, really, really good planning tools out there, but it's being commoditized. So let's go beyond values into lifestyle, happiness, quality of life. And let me go a little further into physiology. All right, this is going to sound a little bit ridiculous at first. How many cells do you think that you, as an average adult, reproduce in one day? One day, regenerate in one day. Let's just start with 5 million. Show of hands. 5 million, anybody? 50 million. Show of hands. 5 billion. Any hands on that one? 5 billion. In one day, regenerate 5 billion. How about 50 billion? Show of hands. 50 billion. The D's have it. 50 billion cells on the average are regenerated by the average adult. And what's little known is that the happiness, the spiritual orientation of our hearts, of our souls, is inextricably linked to how the regeneration of those cells reproduce. Do you think that's important? Do you think your role as a financial advisor is in being enhanced as I speak right now? Can you feel it? 50 billion cells per day. You directly have an influence on your client's wellness, their healthiness, beyond all this stuff on a flow chart here. The evolution is incredible. In fact, we as a firm have adopted a whole new way of dealing with things, and it's called alignment. Oh, it's just not a coincidence that the firm's name is called Align Wealth Advisors. There's so much that went into making that title and that brand. Wealth is not all about money. It's not. Wealth is about having a spiritual orientation that is really not about money. We experience anxiety. We experience anguish around money. Money doesn't provide happiness. If that were the case, only the wealthiest people on the earth would be happy. That's certainly not the case. So what are we talking about here when we talk about getting aligned? Well, if somehow we can coordinate some sort of process that would help us get to the point in which we're happy with our money and it's serving us in a capacity that we've never, ever even imagined. You have dreams, that's great, all of us. Our clients have dreams, that's wonderful, they all do. Some of them are being suppressed. How do you get them, their money to serve their dreams and their aspirations and their values clearly and make sure that there's some sort of confinement there, is to align them. We use what are called value card exercises, and then we assess those values, and we look to see if those values are fitting into their lifestyle, right here, like do a value assessment. And then, of course, we're using financial planning technology, fintech. I would like to bet everyone in this room that you're not using fintech to your fullest advantage. And I know for sure your clients don't know how to do it either. If you could prove them, have someone train you, if not yourself in your office, to use fintech like it's available, oh my God. There's so much out there to help people improve their quality of lives by transferring over all that worry and anguish over to fintech and over to financial advice and human contact to help them improve their quality of lives. We're not talking about mutual exclusion here, we're talking about serving, having money serve an individual by getting the load off their shoulders because they cannot focus on having the best quality of life when they're in anguish over the money. Just impossible to do. So how do we do that? Well, we do have value cards. This is an amazing exercise. Wade's in the audience. Wade and his wife came to visit me in Laguna Beach once. It was great. I threw up a stack of them. Did I give you those value cards? I forget. Or did I just show them to you? Sure. The value cards are based, I may not have told Wade this. He kind of looked down, oh, these are cool. Harvard psychologists got together for about a decade and wanted to help cognitive psychologists to understand how best to help people through depression by helping them understand their true inherent core values. When I say core values, it's a synonym for soul. How do we get them to identify their core values and then accept those core values and make commitments towards those core values so as to not be depressed and be the most productive in our lives? This is a cognitive psychology exercise. I don't pretend to be a cognitive psychologist. My background is in that. But I want to make sure here, as financial planners, we can then step in the realm of behavioral financial planners so that we can enter into the realm of true, absolute happiness. The value cards are from that study. It's called acceptance commitment therapy, and they're extremely, pardon my pun, valuable. They're called value cards. What we do is we help clients identify their values, and by the way, I did this myself, right? I did all of what I'm sharing with you today to myself, with myself, after this guy left my office, to understand myself better so I can lead by referent power and enthusiasm and be an inspiration to my clients, which, by the way, I didn't realize it, but I was already being that way anyway with my clients. But I wanted to improve and make it more, I wanted to bottle it. I wanted to make them understand it, brand it, so that I can be crystal clear with my message. And I hope I'm being that way with you today. So these value cards really help. In this case, we have some clients. And then, by the way, this is an example of a married family, 2 grown children, 6 grandkids, a scientist and a teacher. I appeal to scientists. I have this scientific way of looking at investment management and being happy. I guess you can pick up on that. The top values here, adventure, family, community, and so forth, are security here. And then here are the secondary values, meaning the top 5 out of a deck of 50, where the ones on the left, and then the secondary value, you can back them up, are right here. By the way, there's no such thing as right or wrong in terms of values. You have to be judged on what kind of values you have. Some of the values on the cards are fame. One of them is being important. That's important to a lot of people. Money is a value. Well, we may perceive it differently than our clients, but that's really here nor there. Once the value cards are completed, we make it a mark in our CRM. Hopefully you all use CRM. In ours, we have red tail. It's a little red circle. Wade and I were talking about that. A little red circle over here on the right. We have a template that goes to that important information right there. And I know when I'm talking with my clients on the phone or meeting with them, what their values are, and we track them, and we can also do a little bit more of an understanding of what their values are by putting them and correlating them to how they use their money. This is from Dr. Schwartz. This is a really important study on how behavior lines up with people's spending habits. And in our case, we've linked it to different ways people use their money: charity, legacy, use, and saving. So in this case, clients, their monies were aligned a certain way based on their values. This is super huge. This is proprietary. We've developed it in the firm, actually, for a lot of arduous work. The value profile here is really relevant to how a client spends their money, uses their money. This is all behavioral, right? This is what's called an integrated lifestyle tracker. Now, I don't want to get too scientific. We're developing I'm wanting to now get further into software, but I want to stay away from algorithmic equations for something that is, I just argued earlier, it should be about human relations and human contact. Can we do it virtually? Sure we can. But you can feel the energy from me right now on how important this is. But this lifestyle tracker are based on communications I have with my clients, conversations that are extremely deep. They don't realize it, but I've got the data points right in front of me. Are they tracking well? Remember the old days with the efficient frontier? We're going to show that later. But here's the values, here's adventure, here's the person telling me they're kayaking or traveling. I know by talking to them that they're fulfilling their values. Is that important? Yes. Unequivocally. Does it have a lot to do, more important to them than their money? Absolutely. The money should just be a servant. The money should serve their values. In this case, wow, they go kayaking, traveling, that's great. But we've got income allocated to use now for that. See, I'm going to go down to the bottom here, health. Health is a nice value to have. People work out daily, they have exercise programs. My clients call me to brag about what they're doing. Hey, Dick, we rode around the lake last week. We lost, well, we'll talk more about that, but we lost 50 pounds. We're going to see some clients in a few minutes that lost 50 pounds in the last 6 years. They couldn't wait to be my advocates and my best raving fans. But it's not only 50 pounds I love between them. Wait to hear what happened to my clients when you see them. But it's not only that they're working out daily. Guess what? They have, from the health perspective, way less stress because they relinquish the anguish and the responsibility, right, of financial planning and money worries over to myself and my staff. That's huge. It's huge. It's huge. And it affects their physiology. Besides their orientation of spirit. I know I'm going a little deep here, but that's what I want to do. I want to penetrate the importance in you, that you need to do this for yourself. Find out what your values are, what you're doing with your life, how you are allocating your money, your time, your resources, so you can show your clients, look, this is what I'm doing. And don't think that's not contagious, because it is. Wait till you see the kind of effect we've had on clients. Here's the efficient frontier model. And by the way, this is old school. Here we have standard deviation, and we can tell here this is a poor tracking error. Are you excited about that? Because I'm really excited about that. The fact of the matter is, this is a great way to look at it, but this isn't what we do. This is a human content type of thing. But we can track it, and we have some nice tools to do that. We're developing software for that now. Touch on technology. You need to use it, and remember that if you can do technology and use it and embrace it more than your clients, then you will be valuable to them if you can train them and teach them on it. We have a full-time person. Her sole responsibility is to teach our clients how to use super robust software. Most of my clients are super software oriented already. They're huge. They're already scientists and engineers themselves that work for the government. This software blows them away. So Shannon's in charge of that at the firm. You've got to have somebody dedicated to that because there's calls every single day for it. We get calls today for it. They're not complex calls. Long story short, we have a motto at the firm that's called Lifestyle Matters. Play on words? No. Lifestyle matters more than anything else. Lifestyle leads to what? Better physiology, better psychology, better spiritual understanding and orientation, better family relationships. Last but not least, deeper and better relationships with the advisor on every level. By the way, going down through the family in terms of passing money down and families wanting to have legacies for their children, we develop those relationships because we're talked about all the time. My clients want to call me to brag to me what they're doing with their kids, what they're doing for their children, and how their money's serving their children as well, and grandchildren. So again, we've gone down this whole circle here. We've gone from stocks and bonds, and cursory financial planning, aggregation. I love wealth management. Wealth can be construed as quality of life. Into lifestyle management, I made a little argument for that. And I believe that if you're going to really be a fiduciary for your client, you need to focus on lifestyle management because you're missing the boat if you're not doing it. Do I seem like I lack conviction? No. Wait till you hear what I see. All right. What I did also explain a little bit, I'll explain a little bit more, is that there's a process of realization from an ideal or a vision. This is all behavioral finance, more psychology than not. If you have an ideal, and just to show you, how many of you have some goals that you're kind of in the midst of accomplishing or you haven't accomplished them yet, but there are things that you see in your vision, like, hey, this is where I want to go. They call it bucket list, whatever. Right? A little deeper than bucket list. These things are about your soul. They're about your reason to get up and live. This is about living longer and stronger in your life and having a great quality of life. These kind of ideals right here are what make people tick. So I don't want to take it trivially at all. We go down here to implementation. You have to develop a plan. Oh, by the way, we're planners already, aren't we? So are we positioned to help people reframe and rebuild a lifestyle and behavior and do an analysis for them and help them restructure? Unequivocally. If anybody's qualified, we're qualified. We're more qualified than psychologists to do it, I swear. Then we put into place. Now, putting a plan in place and restructuring doesn't mean anything unless it's implemented and lived. Once you become something and you are it, then you realize it. So we go from idealization, visualization, to reality. Ideality, reality. There's a really good program on that with iThinkSource, a great program in the financial planning and behavioral finance training. But to me, this is so important. And we build this right in the same realm of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We build it right in the same context of building up from the basics. You gotta have the basics in place. For yourself, you have to be intact. You have to be there, put the oxygen mask on yourself, and build up your values and understand your clarity of mind and purpose, of orientation of spirit, before you can ever help someone else do it. But once you do it, then you're qualified. They say, no, I could never do it. Yeah, you could, because you can get the right training. Candidly, I'm now in the business of doing this. I'm very interested in learning and buying more firms and doing more with clients and building relationships. But if I can help you develop those kind of sticky, really meaningful relationships, you're going to be very grateful, and perhaps you'll think of me when you're going to sell your firm in years to come. Who knows? But what I want to also correlate this with evolution is that it is an evolution, not only in terms of financial planning, but also in the area of psychology. Both of them tie very well together. Lifestyle matters. It's just really what we're here for. That's the why. That's what we're here for.